Talking Targaryen. Finale. We're here to discuss. This is what everyone's been waiting for. The buildup has been long enough. Sonic Frontiers. Gil, what do you think?
This is the new format, right? We keep evolving the format. We thought, you know what? We're going to try this time. What if we wait 2 weeks until after the episode airs?
And then talk about Sonic.
Yeah. I'm Adam. Gil, that's the voice you just heard. Alon, you also just heard him. Daniel, say hello.
Hey, I'm Daniel.
Cupbearer.
Say your name now so people know it's you when you're speaking.
Alon.
There we go. That's everyone. Daniel, like Gil said, he's our cupbearer for the episode. Gil is deep into his cups.
Daniel, wine.
Wine?
Yeah.
More wine.
Oh, I think you were telling me to complain. Here, I'll go get you wine.
And by the way, if you're watching this right now, know the screen is going to start changing depending on what we're talking about. We'll be seeing different things.
Yeah, spoilers.
Well, that's prepare yourself.
And if you're listening, just use the power of imagination.
Yes.
Theater of the mind.
So we're going to be talking about the finale. I really liked it. Liked it a lot. I have a lot fewer mixed feelings about this episode than I do about the rest of the series so far.
Wow. See, Adam pulled me aside right before we started recording, and he's like, Gil, off the record, I really like this episode. So, I mean, I've liked basically every episode. You know, one or two I wasn't as big of a fan of. But, Adam, what is it about this episode that makes you say, you know, you didn't have any of those misgivings or any of the mixed feelings?
First of all, war. It's just so good. Like, war is the coolest thing ever.
And when you say war, that's a euphemism for birth, right?
I mean, the intent. Basically, what I mean is the intensity. The intensity is getting cranked up to 10, maybe even past that. I don't know what.
11.
Yeah, maybe you'd say 11. Main characters are meeting their demises. And basically, all right, whenever you see the map and the pieces moving on the chessboard, quite literally now, that's what I loved about Game of Thrones. I loved seeing Stannis in this very room in Dragonstone plotting war and making plans for battle and strategizing. That's what we're getting. Not only that, but we're finally starting to... One thing that I felt was missing from the show, but I also understood why it was missing, was seeing other parts of Westeros. We've basically just been bouncing back and forth between King's Landing and Dragonstone, whereas one of the things I loved about the beginning of Game of Thrones was the way the Stark family all gets scattered across the entire continent, and you get to see all these different parts. You see the Wall, you see the North, you see the Riverlands, you see King's Landing, you go all the way down to you see so many cool places, and it's all this world building. And now we got to branch out a little bit, and we had multiple mentions of the Starks. Maybe we're going to see the North soon. Like, that stuff excites me. The politics excites me, and just the inevitable wheels of war like starting to turn gets me excited.
It's interesting. One of the first observations we had about the show, the night it aired, the premiere, was that it felt a lot more focused than Game of Thrones, which we knew going in. We knew it was all about the Targaryen family. And I would say that if I were describing the show Game of Thrones, I'd probably use the word epic. And I think a lot of that is because of how much of the world you see. And I wouldn't use that word for this show. It's not appropriate for the story. It makes sense that it's been so focused. But I do miss that aspect of it, and I do hope that this kind of opens up the world a little bit for season 2.
Yeah.
And I think it will.
Yeah, it has to. Yeah.
I also really, really enjoyed the finale. I think a lot of the same reasons you described, Adam, is I think we are on the brink of some like epic warfare now, and I think it's really exciting. I think there were some things that didn't land as well this episode, and it's kind of the consistent complaint we've had of we just don't feel close to some of these characters, and we just don't really get where they're coming from. Like Daemon a lot, I feel we've kind of drifted away from him, and it's hard to understand him as much anymore and hard to connect with him.
You didn't connect with him when he was choking his wife and he's... That didn't ring true to you?
Yeah, you know...
It's harder to root for him. But,
yeah.
But I mean, since day one, we've seen he's sick.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
It's not his fault. No, but like the way he was taking pleasure in mutilating like alleged criminals without any, you know, recourse or like, I don't know. I mean, they don't really have trials in this world, but like he's just finding people on the street and mutilating them.
Yeah, however little trial they have, this was even less than that. what he did.
Yeah.
Now, I will say though, I mean, I still do. I find Daemon fascinating, right? Like he is pretty cool, and I'm excited to see him unleashed in this upcoming war. Well, we'll see, right? Because Rhaenyra sort of didn't let him unleash himself this episode.
Right, which was smart.
Yes, very smart. But it seems like he's about to be unleashed, right? Given Rhaenyra's look at the end of the episode.
That's the classic. Like
Yeah.
this is Gil. This is you and I always talk about how much we want a reason to take vengeance on someone because it looks. When you have that look in your eyes that she has, nothing will stop. You're never gonna feel too tired to seek revenge that day. You're not gonna be like, I'll do it tomorrow.
That look on her face tells me it's not just Alicent she's pissed with. It like she's gonna start like anyone that crosses her, she's gonna like. I don't think she's ever going to accept Daemon doing something like that again. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if right now it's just one side versus another. I wouldn't be surprised if it splits even further, and then Daemon's against Rhaenyra and Alicent. We have like this three-way warfare.
It's fracturing.
Especially given first of all, Daemon, you just to move that D to the end, you have Aemond.
Yeah.
And they seem to have some kind of mutual respect for each other. They both respect the insanity and like violence that they both have, and they're both just like very capable warriors.
Yeah, right now you're kind of expecting them to end up one-on-one. That would be really interesting if they actually end up allying.
I feel like it'd be
Imagine
a Pirates of the Caribbean type of fight where they're making jokes the whole time.
Yeah.
Are you really trying to kill each other?
Insult sword fighting.
Wait, just on Aemond, how cool was the gemstone in his eye?
Oh
Sapphire
yeah,
is very
Sapphire. That was awesome.
yeah. I didn't know what that was. Did they say it was a sapphire?
I knew just from like researching.
Alon just
something
knows.
like
Yeah.
it's his Alon's birthstone.
Yeah.
So they actually show it.
I have one in my eye.
I think they show it in the starting. I think that's the symbol for Aemond. Is
Yeah, it
that
is.
what kind of stone did you say it was again?
Sapphire.
Yeah, they show a sapphire for him.
Sapphire.
They're
Sapphire.
minerals. Marie. That's what we had to get
a
in
rock.
Better Call Saul.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
That is so
Oh,
cool.
you know-
Well, that was a Breaking Bad. I mean, yeah.
I wonder if this has any basis in the books, but there is symbolism in this world of blue eyes.
Oh, like the White Walkers.
Yeah, and in Game of Thrones, the Melisandre.
Melisandre.
The problem is the audiobooks have from one book to the other. Roy Dotrice, the voice actor, would change his pronunciation of names, and there's at least one book where he would say Melisandre as if she was French or something, and that mess. So like those names all stick in my head differently, and it would change from book to book.
Yeah.
Wait, we should see how that narrator does the lines by who's the woman with the weird accent in this series?
We'll never know because George R. R. Martin didn't write fast enough for him to live long enough to do the voiceovers for the rest of his books. Daniel.
Okay.
Sorry.
Thank you very much. He also did have a cameo appearance in Game of Thrones as like a peasant.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
He should have been a bard.
I will tell you the tale of ice and fire. But yeah, so I don't think they mean too much by it, but it is, when you see someone with a glowing blue eye, that's bad news in this world.
Yeah, it means they're half White Walker.
Just like Benjen Stark.
Oh, that's right.
yeah.
Cold
Actually.
hands.
By the way, did Daemon remind anybody else of Corlys when in the scene where he chokes Rhaenyra and he's trying to justify why they should go to war? They took the throne away from you. Like he's doing it all for her, just like Corlys, with Rhaenys.
Yeah. Well, and I think we're supposed to get this. Wait, can you explain that point one more time? I want to make sure I'm.
Corlys's justification for everything he was doing is that Rhaenys deserved to be on the throne and she was passed over.
Yeah.
And now Daemon, similarly as a justification for going to war, is saying, Rhaenyra, they took the throne away from you. All these guys are using, well, I'm protecting my wife.
Yeah.
That's why I'm doing this.
Yeah, and it seems like that's one of the themes that is like coming through in this show is the way that the women are being pushed into to create war by the men around them. And I think the show is going out of their way to amplify that from what I've learned, which is like in the books, for example, after this scene at the end when they're meeting in Storm's End and Boros Baratheon is basically already sided with Aemond, because Aemond is now betrothed to one of his daughters. In the book, Aemond wasn't planning to go after Luke here, but then one of the daughters makes some comment about how I thought he took away one of your eyes, not one of your balls. And so then he's like, all right, that's it. I'm going to go get him.
Yeah.
So she kind of prods him into this. And then also in the book, it wasn't an accident what happened between the dragons. That said, the book is meant to be written as if it's the way history is written, which is it's not necessarily objective. So no one will ever know unless they talk about this. Unless Aemon talks about this afterward and says it was an accident, no one will ever know.
Yeah, well, and I imagine he probably won't want people knowing that he accidentally killed him. He'll probably want to be like, listen, I'll just take credit for this and just say I did it intentionally because I don't want people thinking I don't have control over my dragon.
It might depend on what the reception is. Like when he gets back and he's ready to grovel, and then everyone's like, wow, great job. He's like, yeah, right? Totally. Yeah. I'm kind of really enjoying how these it feels very true to life that there are these moments that no one is witness for where some accident happens or some misunderstanding occurs with monumental consequences. Of course, the first one is Viserys' dying words that Alicent somehow just... If I ignore the part about ice and fire and all the other nonsense, and just the fact that he said the word Aegon. But anyway, there's that moment.
His dying words were to kill his daughter and give me the crown.
And should your son accidentally kill my grandson, with a dragon, good. But then this moment, of course. Yeah, and both of those were monumental in the war that's coming, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah. But so I think if you just like freezing on Aemon's face here, like after he realizes what he just did, first of all the political ramifications and everything like that, and he also stepped outside the lines of what he was supposed to do. But on top of that, kinslaying. That's like one of the worst things you can do in this world, and I don't think he wanted to kill him. In fact, he specifically was like, I want to take one of your eyes. I think that's what he's wanted this entire time.
Well, and he kept saying to the dragon, he's like, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
just burn out his eye.
Yeah, just burn the eye. But so I think that there's a couple cool things happening here, which is, one, I love the way that the dragons are hard to control. He inherited this super strong mega weapon, and he's still a teenager. He doesn't know how to this dragon has served many other people before him. He's not completely in charge, and he doesn't know how to wield this power effectively, which is very true to life, because I don't know about you guys, but I don't always trust the people in Washington to wield the nukes.
Well, and Rhaenyra talked about how when dragons go to war, everything burns. Yeah. She's referencing partly Aegon's conquest, right? Vagar was part of that conquest. Like, Vagar is one of those dragons that burned everything.
Yeah. And Vagar probably also learned from his past riders how he should behave, or
Yes.
She should behave. So probably she's still getting acquainted with Daemon, maybe after enough, or Aemond. Yeah, maybe after enough time, she'll be like, oh, you don't want me to do that kind of stuff. All right, sorry, it's just my previous owners,
Right.
They were really ruthless.
Well, I love that. Every conversation I've had about the finale so far, I start with, man, Aemond, like, what a jerk. And they're like, no, it was an accident. I'm like, yeah, it was an accident, but in the same way that if someone took a shotgun and was, like, waving it at their friend, like, and then accidentally kills them. Like, it's an accident, yes, but...
How old is Aemond at this point? So Luke is 14
I think
right
they're
now.
they're about the same age, right? He just grew up
Yeah, like Aemond is like a teenager, right?
Yeah.
So like that's the other thing too is
Here he looks like 40.
Yeah. I mean, you entrust these kids with like
It's a
nuclear
G-force.
weapons.
Yeah.
Right? Kids are going to behave like kids behave, right? He's sort of bullying Luke. And unfortunately, he has a dragon.
Yeah, I mean it's irresponsible for them to have these tools, but this is how the Targaryens are weird people. They have a lot of odd traditions, but this is like you have to imagine, like, you could probably write the history of like Westeros by things getting out of hand, unintentional things happening, people losing control of the situation. and this is just like one of many of those events. The other thing I was thinking is cool here is just like Aemond looks. He's like normally he has this like grin on his face and this smirk of like, I'm the most capable person in the room. I can really relate to this actually. So like he
Perturbed.
he's perturbed and like I legitimately don't think he was thinking I want to kill Luke. Like
No.
I think he was serious. Like he wants to take Luke's eye. And I was actually hoping in the moment Luke would just be like, you know what? I've had enough of this. And he cut his eye out and be like, we're through. You cannot hang this over me anymore. We're done. Like any ill will you have toward me or my family at this point is proof of you just being immature and crazy. Because I gave you what you wanted.
That would have been awesome.
Yeah.
That whole scene was great, by the way. That whole sequence, the whole series of scenes. When he gets there and you see the giant dragon in the background, you're like, oh crap.
It's like a god.
It's even better because right before that, Rhaenyra tells him like he's a friend. Like he'll greet you. It'll be great.
It'll be a warm welcome.
Yeah.
That's worse than Jack Bauer saying, "Trust me, you'll be fine."
Yeah. You have my word.
Man, I mean, that whole sequence was brutal.
Yeah. It's like you see the dragon, and it happens so quickly that, at least for me, I didn't have a chance to register what exactly that means. I was like, I know that's bad news. And then you see Aemond standing there with his anime swagger.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, no. And then they give you some hope because, of course, Baratheon's like, not in my house.
Yeah.
Like, protect him. And so they kind of take you to the edge of, oh, no, something's about to go wrong. Reassure you everything's going to be okay, maybe. Then it's a storm outside. And then it goes the way it goes.
But even at first, Baratheon was kind of hostile, and you don't even know. Like for all you know, everyone in this room, including Baratheon, is ready to just kill Luke.
Yeah.
And then that was like kind of a load off when he was like, "Go back, send this message to your mother."
How smug, by the way, this Baratheon guy. Just look at him. He pissed me off so much. He's so smug. He goes, "Oh, it seems the House of the Dragon does not know who leads it."
Yeah, but man, Luke, what an idiot though. Like the guy's like, which one of my daughters will you marry? Like, just say you're gonna marry one of them.
No. You saw what happened to Robb Stark after that.
Yeah.
No, but I'm not saying actually go through with it.
Well,
He would make him swear it right then and there. Like,
I guess at the end of the day, Baratheon was gonna let him leave anyway.
Yeah.
It was Aemond.
It wasn't Baratheon that was the problem.
Yeah.
I did think Zach Galifianakis was interesting.
Oh, how about how he can't read?
Yeah, I loved that. That really fit the character they were setting, where he gets the message and he looks annoyed. He's like, "Get the maester," because and I think that says something very specific about him, because I think royalty. Yeah, where's the bloody maester? I think when you're royalty, it's pretty much 100% that you're taught how to read growing up, and like you're meant to be learned in the letters and like history and everything, and he clearly just didn't do that.
Yeah. Well, there are certain cases where you have to just kind of give up.
Well,
I'm looking at Daniel.
So Daniel,
by the way.
yeah.
well, also, aren't a lot of the kings just like soldiers that ended up becoming king? They weren't necessarily learned individuals.
Yeah, but this is a Baratheon,
He was
right?
like born and raised. Yeah. But I mean, he's clearly, you can see where Bobby B gets it from. So basically, Aemon got there first. He secured the Baratheons' loyalty. And this was supposed to be the easy one to get.
Yeah.
Just looking at this real quick, are any of the thrones in Game of Thrones comfortable? Or are they all just rocks?
No, he has a
and
cushion
swords?
on
I
the
bet
bottom.
I bet the one in Dorne is.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure in real life they're cushioned.
So Otto did make I really liked the confrontation between Otto and Rhaenyra and Daemon at Dragonstone. Right, I loved Otto's line, "Stale oaths will not make you queen."
That was a good line.
And he is so right. And Rhaenyra it's interesting that Rhaenyra is still being kind of naive, even at this point, to think that the Baratheons would honor that oath. Like, especially now seeing that guy, he doesn't seem like an oath keeper.
Yeah, but I think in episode 1 we met Boros's father, who at the time was in charge of Storm's End, and I think he was more reliable.
And according to Daryl Snow in the chat here, this Lord Baratheon is the child that was the one who was very nervous and gave his speech to be the husband.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Wait, that's not. This guy looks way older than
You
Rhaenyra.
see the way time flies in this.
Some people
series.
age, some
Yeah.
people don't. Look at Chris and Cole. He's
Yeah,
so much the
yeah.
same.
Guy Incognito is right. That boy was a Blackwood, not Baratheon.
You mean he didn't age 50 years?
But yes, that would have been cool. Ooh, what an awesome
How
line.
dare you, Daryl, make him look like a fool in front of the brothers.
Should we start going more chronologically?
Now when I vie for the one take throne, Daryl is not going to back me, no matter what oths he's given in the past.
In a year from now, when Daryl is 50 years older,
So we return to Dragonstone, to this very historic room.
yeah, where Luke is still going on about how he doesn't want to be the Lord of Driftmark.
I don't want it.
You're my queen.
Sir Vaymond, we
And
have
I mean,
seen our
he makes some good points that it's like a very, you got to be kind of like a pirate king sort of guy. And he doesn't even like the water.
Yeah, I feel like this scene does a couple of things well. Like, one, we're so used to seeing people vie for power and want more than they've really earned yet. And here we see somebody that's like, I don't want it. And so to some degree, that makes me sympathetic to him. And then on top of that, it makes it feel, once he becomes the Lord of Driftmark, or this makes you see how in over his head he's going to be. So when he ends up in a dangerous situation at the end of the episode, you're sympathetic toward him, and you have a feeling of he is not prepared for this. So I feel like this did some work in building up the tension later in the episode.
You know what makes him even more sympathetic too is the fact that it's not just I don't want it in the what's his name, Aegon sort of way of, well, I'd rather be at like the brothel with like the kids fighting.
Drinking and whoring my way into an early grave.
For Luke, it's more I'd screw it up. Like I can't, I'm not good enough for this. Like it's an important role and I can't fill it.
And he knows he's illegitimate.
Yeah,
It's true, yeah.
everyone does.
You know, that is kind of funny, right? That he knows about the illegitimacy of his, existence, right? But he still looks at his mom and thinks she's perfect, right? He says, "I'm not perfect like you," and then Rhaenyra sort of laughs.
I do think he's in love with her a little bit. I think it's mutual. I think like if you were able to get older and Daemon weren't around, that stuff might happen. That's the
guess,
vibe I got.
I saw a motherly relationship there. I don't know what gives you that suspicion, Adam.
Look at her. Look at her eyes.
Your mother will do the same for you.
Yeah. I mean, anyway, that really doesn't matter.
I
too much,
agree
but
with
it would
Muhammad's
completely
reaction.
it would completely fit the Targaryen. It doesn't matter, but we've been trained at this point to see there's no line like the Targaryens.
Yeah,
So
but everyone's looking at
Adam.
Adam like he's weird. Like, did you forget what the Targaryens are doing constantly? Like, her
I don't think they do
husband-
mother-son though,
Yeah, that I don't
or
think,
father-daughter. I don't
His-
think the Targaryens do that.
His stepfather is also his uncle. No, great uncle.
His brother is his grandpa.
You know
Yeah, that's what
why?
I'm saying.
Something.
It is just so funny. It's so funny, Adam, that you're making this point though, because I was about to make the point of, wow, Rhaenyra is like so much more nurturing and caring a mother than like Alicent is.
I agree, but also her kids are better.
Yeah, but also she's a better parent.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, look. I was kind of joking around about what I was just saying, but like, I think that she has like really fierce, like ferocious love for her kids, kind of in a similar yet less destructive way as Cersei does. Cersei and like Jaime's approach to their children and their family was basically, it is not enough for us to succeed. Everyone else must fail. Like they want to destroy, especially Cersei. Jaime, they kind of retconned him, but like, but she was basically like, F everyone else. The entire world can burn as long as I can like protect my kids. Here, I just think it's more just that they are like intensely important to her. It's similar to how like Daenerys was with her dragons, where like they were her children, and they're clearly like, it's impossible to watch this episode and not really feel like you're supposed to root for the black the black team.
Yeah.
Like they just try to build up her as being a good mother, like having all these admirable qualities. She doesn't hit them, or anything, but also they're good kids. Like you can't not kind of
They're
like
good
them.
boys.
Did you buy Rhaenyra? So Rhaenyra being like a good mother, I feel like we've kind of seen the last few episodes. But Rhaenyra being a good queen, like I don't
She
know.
really hasn't had much of a chance yet.
Yeah, like it came as a bit of a shock to me that she is so restrained and capable. And I don't know. I'm not sure that I oppose it,
Well,
but it just
She's
it
been
felt
like anticipating this for a long time.
Yeah, and
True.
her restraint is almost what she had to live by for years.
Yeah.
Right? When we first met her, she clearly wanted more. She wanted to be a warrior, but she could, on one hand, say to Alicent, I want to ride around and eat cake with you, and sort of be okay with the fact that she's not going to have the throne, even though she wants it. So I feel like she's been trained to be restrained for a long time. That's my feeling. And then that was, when you say she's a good queen, that's what you're talking about,
Yeah.
right? There's that great scene toward the end of the episode where when Rhaenys convinces Corlys to show his support, part of the way she does it is by saying, Rhaenyra has actually been very restrained. It's all the men who want her to go fight. And then it cuts to all the men discussing the war while she just sits there restrained.
Yeah, and I think she gets that. I think in part from Viserys, which Daemon attributes Viserys's level-headedness to weakness, which is an easy thing to do because you see how he often goes back and forth on decisions of like his succession, or not goes back and forth, but doesn't put enough force behind his decision making. And so it's hard to, you can't tell when someone is being measured versus being weak.
Yeah. You guys were saying before, were saying before how we might see a rift between Daemon and Rhaenyra. I think it's a really good point. I was just thinking about how, what happened between Daemon and Viserys. Viserys pushed Daemon away, right? And Daemon I guess Daemon never actually sort of rebelled against Viserys, but Daemon stopped being on Viserys' side, right? And stopped being there for him.
He
With
was like
Rhaenyra,
he was
Yeah.
like chaotic good in the sense of like he's kind of on his side, but very unpredictably so, and not always very helpful.
Right. I'm just gonna say though, at the end, Rhaenyra pushes Daemon away too. We don't really know what happens, but Daemon's not there at the Black Council when Corlys comes in. Right. It sounds like she's sent Daemon elsewhere, so we might
always a
see
bad
similar
idea.
dynamic play out.
He, by the way, somebody in the chat asked, why did he choke Rhaenyra? And of course, on the surface, it's because she was disagreeing with him. She was being too restrained. He wanted to go to war, so he's trying to choke some sense into her. But I think on top of that, he sees a little bit of Viserys in her. He hears
totally.
Viserys in her voice right now. And I think he still harbors resentment for his brother, even though he's dead. And so, yeah, there you go. The line happens while he's choking her. So some of this is also just him taking out his anger on a ghost.
Well,
And he's angry that he was never told about this prophecy.
Yeah, I think part of him might be a little miffed that he didn't get to hear about this directly. And the other part is, you fool, like you're throwing away all of this. You're making decisions based off of some dead person's dream that they had. Whereas this is real life. This is your family. These are your children. Like, this is the kingdom at stake. And you're talking about the Song of Ice and Fire. And he's like, didn't you see season 8?
Yeah.
It's nothing. Don't worry about it. But yeah, I mean, it's not like he shouldn't have choked her.
Yeah.
Not a good thing to do. But it didn't surprise. I feel like I was reading some things that made me feel like the reaction was like people were either surprised that he did it or upset about it. I mean, it's not good,
Well,
but it's like not, to me, it wasn't surprising at all.
Well, it's also teaching her that she needs to get stronger, not necessarily physically, but she needs to figure out how to gain power and protect herself from anyone and everyone. So maybe actually a good wake-up sign for her.
Yeah. So we have this first scene back in Dragonstone. They're at the table, and they find out Corlys is alive, which happens at the perfect time because Luke was just saying he's not ready to take over.
Right.
So that was convenient.
And they find out Viserys died.
Yeah. And then all this, that's kind of when she starts going into not labor, but having her like miscarriage.
Now, so could that have been triggered by the shock and the stress of what just happened? It definitely
It's so
played.
quick.
It definitely played. That
I mean,
way.
I think they want it to seem that way. Yeah. I don't think it's like impossible, but let's scroll ahead to when you actually see the child.
Let's try to avoid those
Yeah.
showing the actual bloodied.
Okay, well,
There
I
it
won't
is.
show it too much.
That's the
Yeah,
child
that's
right
the
there.
child. Well, you know, it's more true than you might think because in the books, the child was meant to be sort of deformed and dragony looking, which we know is a thing that happens to Targaryens sometimes.
Well,
It's
isn't this
scaly.
what happened to Daenerys's kid?
Yeah, it is. It was like scaly and had a tail.
Well,
Oh,
it's
but
also
that-
a witch, though.
Yeah.
Well, it depends
Yeah.
how you.
That's what happened with the Jersey Devil.
That's where it came from. But so no, this child was doomed from the get go, and I haven't heard anyone talk about this yet. But I do want to show one little shot of it.
Okay.
Hold on. It might be too hard to find the specific one, but the point is, it had the cord was wrapped around the neck. Did
Right.
anyone pick up on? Did you guys see that?
I did. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's called nuchal cord. Nuchal basically means neck. So that in modern times can be like dealt with and survived, but in this case, it sounds like the child was probably already like it didn't have a chance. Yeah. Sometimes the cord can be wrapped, but it's not actually like cutting off circulation or anything. And then during the delivery process, you can kind of fix it. And the child can survive. But in this case, it just seems like it didn't have a chance.
Do you think this is an omen or portent that her ascendancy to the throne is also stillborn?
Not necessarily.
I don't know. Did you read it that way?
I don't know. It could be a bad omen, is all I was thinking.
I kind of took it as this is happening at the exact, like, right after this happens, she has her impromptu coronation. She, like, one of the Erics shows up with a crown, right? Mm-hmm. I think it's basically like motherhood is the phase of your life that was like motherhood is over. Now it's rule. Like now you're queen. I took it as basically like the end of one chapter, the beginning of a new one.
Yeah,
Interesting.
There's going to be casualties in this war. Your own children, even, which
Yeah.
happens later in the episode.
In that way, it was a bad omen then. By the way, this is Viserys' crown.
Yes.
This was a great scene, by the way.
Yeah.
I love just seeing. I love the happy music and people pledging loyalty. It's one of my
Yeah.
favorite things in Game of Thrones.
Yeah, Gil always demands that once before every episode.
Daniel, where's my loyalty?
I shall father no children.
Yeah, none of you people better have kids, right? Gil's always asking us that.
I do have one. During the birth, was anybody else kind of like, enough already?
Yeah.
Like at a certain point, watching the show is almost punishing, where it's just awfulness after awfulness.
So on rewatching this episode, I skipped through the birthing scenes. I just couldn't watch it again. It's not a knock against it. Like they did it well, and they made it so disturbing. I really did not want to watch another stillbirth.
I've been watching those on repeat.
You're exactly the type of person who needs to watch it, Daniel.
Yeah.
Because you're not appreciating how horrible it is.
It's a battlefield.
And if you watch the like after the, do they still call it After the Thrones or like just when they're like chatting with the director,
It's talking
and creators?
Targaryen, they call it.
Yeah. That he said like she's basically, it's a battlefield. She's at war with her own body.
Okay.
And I mean, very much looked that way.
Yeah.
What do you make of her not letting her like maids help her during this experience?
Yeah, I wondered if I was going to ask the same question, and I wondered if every time somebody helps with one of these births, it seems to not go well. They end up pulling someone aside and being like, "Should we kill her?" Or,
One of them was just like, as soon as she started, she was like, "Ow!" They're like, "Ugh!" Lifting up their axe.
Wow,
ready to go.
I wonder if that's it. Like, was she scared they would kill her to save the baby or something?
that was the first
That's
thought
a good
I had.
point. I didn't think about that.
Wow.
I thought it was also. I mean, I just read it as I didn't consciously think too much about it, but it just seems like kind of normal for some people when they're in the midst of a crisis to like not want people to be around them or help too much. Like, it almost felt that way because she could tell this isn't like her prior births. This isn't normal. It's too early. It hurts too much. I'm bleeding. I think it was it was like a stay away from me. Like there's like something's wrong. This isn't.
Years ago, I saw a video of a guy getting struck by lightning. His mom was like, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And he's like, "Shut up and let me gather myself." So your thing is basically that.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what it is. Like, leave me alone. Like, I'm trying to get my bearings straight.
And that does kind of make sense. I mean, she is very independent.
Yeah.
Right? Like who have we seen her lean on? Alicent, right? And that did not work out well. And since then, she's mostly been on her own. She has this Daemon guy around her, but like he also chokes her, right? So it kind of makes sense that she would want to be on her own going through this crisis.
Yeah. And I mean, in many ways, she's been alone like her whole life.
Yeah.
And it fit the characters. It was congruent enough that I didn't question it very much.
I love this line by Rhaenys, by the way. A war is like to be fought over this treachery, to be sure.
Yeah, but like it's interesting because I really like her, and but even what she's saying in this very line, she's not saying I will fight for you. Like, she's almost there to interpret events and say just where things look like they're heading. She's not committing to anything, and she also has the kind of perfect excuse, which is I'm not allowed to. It's not like she's been playing her part very well here and taking advantage of it, which is she's not in a position to bend the knee. Her husband's still alive. He made his wishes clear, and she is basically the messenger and interpreter, while also definitely she's been taking plenty of actions herself, but also has kind of this shield.
And she convinces Corlys later to side with Rhaenyra.
Yeah.
So I think she does a great job of not playing her cards. You don't really know where she stands, but she knows where she stands, and she knows how to get there the right way.
Yeah.
According to this world's rules.
She would have been a better ruler than Viserys, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
She's more calculating. She's healthier.
Yeah. That's probably the Maester's fault.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
but
they
she's-
make her very likable.
She doesn't care that much about the common people, though. We do see that, right?
No
She
one
kills-
here does.
But
Especially
Viserys,
not Rhaenyra.
Well, are you joking?
Well, when she came through the ground and
Rhaenys.
Rhaenys.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry,
It was confusing because that's exactly what I was saying. Alon,
yeah, no,
was
my
that
bad.
Rhaenys doesn't care about the common people.
Okay.
Anyway, so Rhaenys doesn't care about the common people.
So
in my
Rhaenys
opinion.
does not care about the common people.
None of these people do, I think is safe to say.
No, but Rhaenyra does, or at least Rhaenyra seems to, right? And that's what she's saying is everyone burns when dragons go to war, and that's part of why she's showing the restraint.
She got that from Viserys too. Like Viserys seems to like he really respects and fears the power of dragons. He never claimed another one after his Balerion. Is that right? After Balerion died, and like he even attributes the doom of Valyria to the dragons, which that's not even proven. But he's ready. He's sick of the war and the violence and the killing, and I think even if he's not like doesn't necessarily feel like on an empathy level much for the common people, he generally wants peace and stability for the realm because it's better for everyone. And like Rhaenyra definitely got some of that, but she's being she in this episode basically tests her to her limit, and I think she draws the line at like the death of two children so rapidly one after another. I think is enough to do it. And interestingly, that's also something Rhaenys has dealt with. Is like the deaths of her children in quick succession. As an aside, I wonder if at any point the like Velaryon or like Rhaenys' loyalty will be in question, and Rhaenyra might have to tell her the truth that her son is alive.
Yeah, I feel like at some point that chip has to be played. It'd be really weird for that thread to just go loose for this whole time.
Chekhov's son gallivanting around the free cities. So we have the stillborn scene. Meanwhile,
Daemon.
they're plotting their war.
Yeah, and then Jace is the one who tells Daemon, we can't do anything until we get Rhaenyra's blessing or get her decision, right?
Right, because they're very, they're loyal and they'll do whatever she says.
Mm-hmm.
How cool are these black and red tunics, by the way, that the children are wearing?
I think they're cool, but it kind of looks almost like gestury to me. Like looking at this picture, I could see the lower half of his body having like those like frilly like
bells.
skirt thing and the bells at the end of his.
He also needs
shoes.
that hat that has like the two like
Yeah.
cotton ball things.
Yeah, weird like pointy.
See,
Or not
this is
cotton,
really
but-
this is really frustrating because I thought we could just have different opinions here, and I could keep thinking it's cool, but now I can't unsee the gesture thing. Okay, Daemon says to Jace, "I will show you the true meaning of loyalty." And apparently the true meaning of loyalty is you take your Kingsguard and you say either obey me or I'll kill you.
Yeah, I thought one of them would actually die. Like maybe one of them wouldn't be convincing enough.
But it's not a real choice. This is ridiculous. Either you tell me the truth and swear loyalty and you'll be safe, or you can lie and swear loyalty, but then I'll kill you painfully later, or I can kill you painlessly now. Like, it's not a real choice.
I think Damon's point is that there really is no such thing as loyalty.
He's
Oh,
teaching
that's
you
a
how
good
to
point.
force loyalty out of people. And that's it.
Yeah, because what you're saying, so you're like Luke, you're like Jace. So you have the belief about what loyalty is,
Yeah.
and then I'm like, I'll show you true loyalty.
It's just kind of funny because you don't really see hesitation from either of them
Yeah,
at
they're like-
all. Like they're like, yeah, we're already with you,
we're
man.
gonna do
Relax.
it.
Actually, that's a good point too. Is Damon's sort of idea then is there's no real such thing as loyalty. There's power, and power comes from our dragons, right? And that is a point Daemon keeps making over and over, right? And that makes Daemon a much scarier person than Rhaenyra, right? Like Rhaenyra actually says, it happened a couple episodes ago. She says, "I don't want to rule through fear. I want my people to love me." And Daemon says, "Well, you also need fear." And there's sort of those two different sides of the coin of power.
Yeah, that was one of the silver linings to people thinking they killed
Rhaenor.
Yeah.
Yeah, now people will fear them.
Yeah. It's interesting how often we see signs of scenes of Kingsguard people being forced to swear loyalty, even like in front of a dragon. And like sometimes it goes the right way and sometimes it doesn't. Like remember the Tarleys in Game of Thrones? They just get burned alive by Daenerys.
Oh, yeah.
So this reminded me of that. But here they made the right choice, which was to... the thing is, like, I already thought they were loyal. Like, I didn't understand this. I agree with Hamad, who says I didn't like the scene. It felt random and not needed. I wouldn't say I didn't like it. That isn't how I reacted. But it did feel superfluous because if not for this scene, I wouldn't have even questioned their loyalty here.
It's funny, right? They're already in the war room together, like planning out the war and stuff. And then Damon's like, "Hey, quick aside, guys. Like, let's go over here quickly."
Like, you're on my side, right? Like, after you already heard all of our plans. All right, so then the Rhaenyra's dead baby's body is like prepared, and they have like the funeral kind of thing.
Then Otto arrives, right?
Well, yeah,
Oh,
we
no,
already
first
talked about
Eric.
the
First,
coronation.
Eric arrives, swears fealty, and they have the coronation.
Oh,
which we talked
one
about.
quick comment about that. Eric walks up and the Kingsguard like pull swords on him, or they don't, but they're protective. It's nobody was guarding the perimeter.
I was gonna say it reeked a little bit of that like Game of Thrones teleportation thing.
Well,
just
maybe
kinda
he
showed
already
up.
explained to the perimeter the same situation. They're,
Yeah.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, but you'd think they would escort him, like.
Yeah.
So, but it was a cool scene. Like as always, like visually, it looks good. I didn't have nearly as many like CGI related complaints this episode. It's just a good scene, and like Gil was saying, I like these scenes where people like bend the knee and swear loyalty and everything. Especially, I love scenes where you see people acting on what they believe to be honor.
Yes.
Like Eric is here; he risked his life. He stole the crown. Like, if the Green faction ever finds him, they won't just kill him; they'll torture him. Like he, when you see people acting on the, honor, it's very satisfying to watch.
Hopefully they don't like accidentally mistake Eric for Eric and then kill Eric by accident.
They'll just have to
Yeah,
kill
that-
both of them to be sure.
I feel like there was an extra layer of emotion too, just because that crown, when you see Daemon holding it, I just couldn't help but think of when Viserys dropped it and then
Yeah.
he picked it up for him. You keep an eye on that crown. That's the tequila stopper. Of the show.
Yeah. notice that Rhaenys doesn't bend the knee in this scene. And again, she's kind of able to do that because it's not up to her. I think that's one of the reasons. Like, no one else would be allowed to just stay up there standing. But she's shown enough loyalty through her actions and intentions not to mess things up for Rhaenyra, that between that and the fact that she's not in a position to speak for her house on this, she's like allowed to get away with that.
Well, and Rhaenyra owes her a lot. She's the one who had to escape on her dragon and warn her about what's coming.
Yeah.
And she also comes from an incredibly powerful house.
Yeah.
Right? Rhaenyra acknowledges, when Rhaenys tells her, hey, we haven't sworn fealty either way yet. Rhaenyra says, like, I should hope for your support. Like, she's willing to almost beg for it because they're such a powerful, important house.
What do they say about hope?
It's the fool's ally.
Yeah. All right, we go back to the war room, and it turns out that this table has some cool hidden features.
I want a table. We should get a podcasting table like that.
That'd be pretty cool.
Now that we're no longer on screen, people don't see us anymore. Now we're going to get this.
So I saw a comment on YouTube about this, which was hilarious. And so you remember Stannis being in this room, right? The war room with Melisandre planning his conquest. And the top comment on YouTube was said, basically like, leave it to Stannis to have a cool ass neon table and never turn it on. Because we never saw this in Game of Thrones.
Was that in the book? Do you remember?
No idea.
As they stood around the cool neon table.
Yeah. Stannis was like, turn it off. But yeah, that was pretty neat. I liked seeing the way that they light all, because you see these scenes with like a million candles in them, and you're like, how do they? It must take so much time to light all of them. But in this case, they just have one big torch that they like kind of just like sweep over the whole thing. So it's nice to just be like, oh, that's how they do it.
Yeah.
Light them all at once. And with that, all of my questions are answered. So now they're making their war plans.
Yeah, and they're outnumbered and they have shaky alliances.
Yeah. They keep mentioning some of the houses that they do have like definite loyalty from, and I feel like even just, I forgot what they are, but like some of the names of the houses just didn't sound very intimidating or impressive.
Aaron.
Well, that would be a good one to have.
It's like we have
That'd be a
Carl.
Really good one. Yeah, Carl's on.
Carl,
Wherever
Eric,
you-
Jason. Maybe some real like.
With a Q though. Carl.
Yeah, true.
So that's okay.
Oh, I mean, I love Daemon describing their current position. Say, Dragonstone is well defended, but as a point for conquest, it leaves much to be desired.
Yeah.
Our army leaves a lot to be
They
desired.
can hold up in there and just slowly get chipped away at, but they can't launch an invasion or they can't reclaim the throne from the position they're currently in. They need allies, and they need to use their dragons.
And how cool that Daemon immediately starts thinking of it as a war of conquest.
Yeah. Well, this is what he's been. I think he's been
Yeah.
waiting his whole life to be in this position, and I think that's another reason for his very rash reaction to Rhaenyra bringing up the Song of Ice and Fire. Is like, don't mess this up for me. Like, I've been waiting my entire life to have like a war that I can feel justifiable in fighting, and like a war for my family, and a war for myself, and like a war for conquest. And he doesn't want anything to get in the way of that.
The Stepstones was his only real war battle experience, right? That we're aware of.
That we've
Yeah.
seen, yeah.
Yeah, other than that, it was just tourneys.
Oh, yeah, see, these are some of that Massey Darkland bar.
Yeah.
And then, you don't hear that, and you're like, ooh, scary.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
One of them's a bar.
Yeah.
I like Guy Incognito's message. We've got Edwin the Cowardly, Terry the Pacifist, and Stanley the Betrayer.
I love this. There's never lived a Stark who forgot an oath.
Yeah, I love how they just kind of acknowledge, like, there's the Starks, and those are the good guys.
Yeah.
Random question, Adam. For
Yeah.
the Starks, right? The Starks are really honorable, and they're oath keepers and all this stuff. how do they end up supporting Robert and Robert's rebellion? Even though obviously they have a lot of reasons to support him, why do they abandon their oaths to the king?
I'm sure there's a better explanation than what I'm gonna say, but my understanding was, first of all, Ned and Robert were just like lifelong friends, and also it's complicated because like the king, Ned holds it against Jaime that he killed the king, while also I don't think he disagrees that the king went mad and was going to wreak havoc on the kingdom.
Yeah.
Right, okay, Muhammad. So good point. The Mad King killed Ned Stark's father and brother
In the throne room, right?
in the throne room, and
Yeah.
Jaime was there when it happened and gleefully recounts watching it. Not gleefully, but he recounts it to Ned, like in this really good scene in the show. I think to remind him, yeah, I killed the king. I broke my oath. Remember what he did to your family. So I think between the fact that he and Bobby B were lifelong friends, and also that there is precedent for like gaining the throne by force, I think it kind of makes sense that he was okay with it. I also think it explains also why after those events he went back to the north and never went back down to King's Landing. He wanted nothing to do with it. He didn't want to become Hand of the King. I don't think he likes the way everything was settled, and I don't think he approves of the whole system down there. I think he didn't see it as honorable. So, not like a perfect answer, but that's like the overall.
It was
shape of
perfect, just like Rhaenyra.
Yeah. So yeah, I really hope we meet the Starks soon.
Yeah.
I want that. I want season 2, episode 1 to open with.
We at least
Winterfell.
saw one for a second. When people were all pledging support for Rhaenyra after
Yeah.
she was named heir, we saw one who was like, I, the Stark, support thee in vows, heirdom.
All right, so they're planning the war. They're talking about the dragons. There's unclaimed wild dragons, and then we see, what's her name? One of the Velaryon girls.
Bela and Rhaena. I forget which one.
Yeah.
I forget. Yeah.
So because she doesn't have a dragon, she really wants one. Maybe it's a chance for her to claim one. So yeah, there's 3 wild dragons, all who nest in this one area. I like that Daemon is like the keeper of. He like knows where the eggs are and all this stuff.
I love how he's also been sort of planning for this too, right? He has like a dozen eggs incubating, all in preparation for this war.
Except it takes time to raise dragons to like maturity. So I don't think that when he mentions that they have dragon eggs, I don't know how useful those will be.
Well, I agree. They're probably not going to be that useful, but I think nobody also knows how long this war might last, right? Like it's possible you could be fighting for a few decades.
Yeah, I mean, and that might end up being what happens.
But you could probably bring like a little baby one into war. That's kind of like a little flamethrower.
You can hold it.
It's still useful.
Ride it like Yoshi. I can't fly yet, but
You ride another dragon holding that baby dragon. It's like a turret on the side.
And we basically.
how long is this scene?
I know some of these scenes are really long. So this is when Otto Hightower arrives, and he gives pretty generous terms, right? They get to keep Dragonstone. They let Luke keep the
Lord of
Driftmark and all that, but that's not enough, and they can't allow a usurper to stay on the throne.
Well, we don't know that that's not enough, right? Rhaenyra does say after Otto hands her that page that reminds
like,
her of
"Get
her
the maester."
relationship of her relationship with Alicent. She does say she'll think about it.
Yeah, I thought part of that was
Buying time.
and you can at least, even if she's not planning to accept I don't know how seriously she was planning to think about it, but I don't think there's any downside to showing that you're willing to consider offers.
I think it was probably on the table for her as an option. What she really wanted was time to think about options, time to figure out how real their alliances are.
Yes.
What is their strategy going to be? And if she truly came to the point of there's no way we can win this war, I think she may have gone with it. And by the way, Daniel, just remind us that page, we see her rip that page out of the book in episode 1, right? During her and Alicent's study session. So that was a little token to remind her of, hey, you and Alicent used to be good friends.
And why did Rhaenyra tear it out of the page? To tell Alicent, hey, I know what I'm doing, right? Rhaenyra was jokingly not remembering the history, but then she proves to her, hey, I do remember this. She rips it out and says, for you to remember.
Mm-hmm. And it was a page about Nymeria.
Yes. Who founded Dorne.
That's right. Yeah.
And
cool face-off between Rhaenyra and Otto.
Yeah, it really made me appreciate spending so much time in sort of flashback, because when she's staring at him, I kept thinking, like, this is such a different dynamic from when she was a child. And I don't think I would have thought of that if we'd just seen glimpses of that time instead of spending episodes there.
I agree that this episode gave me the feeling of payoff for all the time we invested in their like childhood experiences and all the earlier time periods. You can even read what it says here. Tasks together with ropes and tables, Nymeria's fleet dispersed at the coming of the first storms, sweeping them across the sea, cast west and south into something east, west, and south into something invested pocket of basilisk.
And if you take the first letter of every word, put it together, it says Frings back.
Guy Incognito.
Yeah, Guy, you're my favorite guy. He thank you for the super chat. Here's some of the money I made while not working and watching this instead. Yeah, that's also part of our new strategy. We do it Monday mornings. Everyone's free.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Guy Incognito. You're the best.
So Rhaenyra she's touched by the reminder of the friendship they once shared, and the last time she and Alicent saw each other, it seemed like they really kind of wanted to make amends.
Yeah.
And now, thanks to men, that ship has sailed.
Viserys couldn't keep his mouth shut and just die quietly. Had to flap his gums.
Ew.
Had to flap the inside of his cheek.
Ugh. Oh yeah, I only had one cheek. I forgot by the end.
By the way, there's so many cool things going on in these scenes. It's a little frustrating. We can't. Just things move so quickly, it's hard to appreciate all of it. Like, we see the face-off here of Eric and Eric, right? But
I didn't even pick up on that.
Yeah, but we only met these characters, I think it was last episode, right? Yeah, I think it was last episode we meet them. It's hard to remember which one's which. Their names sound so familiar. Like, it's such a cool idea, but I feel like there's so much going on. It's hard to appreciate every little bit.
Yeah, it's true, because it's a civil war. So there is that aspect of brother versus brother. Well, which I guess is made very painfully clear in Rhaenyra versus Alicent. Two people used to be friends. But the Eric dynamic could be interesting if we got to know them a bit more.
You're definitely going to have a fight at some point.
But if we knew them
They're
more
the new
than
Hound
just...
and the Mountain.
Right. Other than just you're the good guy and you're the bad guy.
Yeah. By the way, when Rhaenyra goes to remove the hand pin from Otto... Both times I watched that, I got nervous being like, doesn't that seem like the type of thing you'd be finicking with? But like, you wouldn't be able to get it off. And then it's like an awkward minute of like, you're tugging at this guy's
And
pin.
then you have to use two hands and it makes you look lame.
That was pretty awesome, though.
Yeah. I was thinking it would be like a cool artifact to then find like 100 years later, if you're like exploring the coast.
That's the finale 10,000 years later.
Yeah.
It's our modern times. And someone's like, what is this thing?
So they're back in the war room. Looks cool with all the like candles and the glowing table. And they're asking like, Rhaenyra, are you really considering those terms? And it seems like she is.
Yeah. She makes the point. Like if me becoming queen means everybody dies. I don't want that.
Yeah.
What's the point?
Wouldn't a good king or queen consider everything?
Yeah.
And this is why she dismisses everyone from the room. She's like, Daemon, come here. Choke me. No, it's because she knows that the Song of Ice and Fire is this, it's a secret. And she doesn't know if Daemon knows about it or not, but she needs to explain, it's even if the Song of Ice and Fire is baseless and ends up not being anything. Well, that is what it turned out. But it's sort of a convenient dream to pass through the generations. It's good for the realm if you basically give the royalty, like whoever's sitting on the throne, the idea that there is something bigger than this that is a threat to everyone, and your job is to think beyond personal power and your family's power, and to ensure stability and strength.
Right.
But
That said, it's supposed to be a Targaryen, though.
Yeah, exactly. That's my point. That's sort of the weakness to it, is maybe not all, it might not be a Targaryen who's fit to rule. By the way, the confrontation between Daemon and Rhaenyra, which leads to, her pulling him aside, right, clearing the room, was pretty cool, right? He's yelling at her, like, war is already here. What are you doing about it? It's pretty awesome.
Yeah. And so she's impressing upon him the Song of Ice and Fire, the threat from the north that's going to kill all of us. And he doesn't know about it. And that's when the choking happens.
Yeah.
Which we covered it pretty thoroughly. But I'm at the point where I have to pretend that the way Game of Thrones ended isn't how it ended. I have to pretend I don't know what the Night King turns out to be and how easily he's defeated, and how Winter barely even reaches King's Landing. And once I do that, I can watch these scenes and enjoy them more.
Well, when was the long winter with the White Walkers before? Or I'm just trying to think, when was the last time White Walkers showed up before Game of Thrones?
In theory, I think it was like 1,000 years.
So before this.
Yeah, like the White Walkers and all the supernatural stuff. Most people don't really believe in it anymore. That's and down in like King's Landing in these parts, I don't think anyone even thinks about it much.
But we should see a long winter at some point, though, right? Because that's occurred.
Yeah, but we don't. I don't know if we'll see it in this series,
Right.
But I don't know if these are all like summer children. I don't know if they've ever encountered a winter. But that's another thing I miss from Game of Thrones, and that's why I'm excited at the mention of Starks is, winter is coming. They know it. They don't necessarily, even the Starks don't really believe in the supernatural kind of stuff anymore, except for old Nan, who is probably young Nan now. But like, I like the way they take that threat seriously.
Yeah. I mean, if they start showing us some wildlings, we might see something, all right? Technically.
I don't know how we're going to see wildlings in this series. But
Oh,
it would be
this
nice.
is a prequel. This is before the Game of Thrones.
Yes.
So yeah, this is the choking scene. It's nothing new. Daemon's a jerk. We know that.
Yeah.
He's a bad guy, who is also kind of he's like a wild card, loose cannon. He's on the team that we're rooting for, and he's an entertaining, ambitious character that is fun to watch.
Yeah.
But
He's
like
the
most
Loki of
people-
the show.
Yeah, there you go.
So there's a female version of him that's better.
Oh,
right, 'cause
Loki.
I forgot about
Yeah, yeah.
And he's gonna slowly turn into more and more of just a complete joke, even though he used to be like a god.
I mean, I hope that doesn't happen, because I could see the show going in the direction of he becomes like season 8 Jon Snow, where he just like is weak and useless. I don't think they'll do that, but all right. So now, look who's back.
Yeah.
Corlys. Really, they could have made him look like he'd been through some more stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was he bedridden for like 6 years?
Was it that long? And
I think he had fever. He was like struck with that fever for a long time.
No, I think like months.
Oh, okay. I thought it was longer.
He was away at war for years.
Yeah.
in the
That's what it is.
Stepstones.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're just used to between episodes, years going by.
Yeah.
But I loved when he wakes up and he finally says something that in these shows I always want someone to say this. Like, let's just get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing? Let's retire. And then she reminds him about their grandkids. And although they may be illegitimate, they are,
They have their name.
they have their names.
And they've known them for a long time. I thought this was such a sad scene, right? Where Corlys learns of his brother's passing, right? Rhaenys also says to him, the first thing she says is, "You abandoned me," and he finally admits that heedless ambition has hurt them. It's time to give up the ambition, and
Too
Rhaenys'
late.
reaction,
Yeah.
too late.
Well,
Yeah.
Daemon's kids before Rhaenyra are legitimate.
Yeah.
So like they're around, so they do have some actual bloodline in the mix here.
Right,
true,
and
yeah.
they're part of the black faction. So like one way or another, their loyalties kind of inevitably go there. And they give us multiple shots of Luke and Jace standing next to their betrothed, who are the Velaryon children. So like their families are very intertwined at this point.
Yep. And this is where we get the line where Rhaenyra explains how, Corlys essentially says that he can't support Rhaenyra. She's crazy or whatever. And Rhaenys defends her, saying she's the only one showing restraint. And I think that's kind of the final straw that turns him to say, okay, let's go support her.
Yeah, even though it pains him.
Yeah.
But it really makes a big difference. Their support makes a huge difference in this war.
Yeah, not only do they have the fleet, half the fleet in Westeros, but then we'll soon learn that this time, after they took the Stepstones, they garrisoned them.
Yeah.
Now they have the Stepstones.
Now they can beggar the realm.
That's
Yeah.
right.
It was fun when he says, "Our pursuit of the Iron Throne is at an end." It's
Yeah, I
like,
love that
what do you mean,
phrasing.
our pursuit?
Yeah.
He's like, Rhaenys, I know how badly you wanted this. I'm sorry I failed you. But yeah, when he's like, "We shall declare for no one," like they want to be Switzerland. Like, I like the idea of it,
Yeah.
but it's just very, it's like way too late at this point.
Yeah, several years too late.
But yeah, every time they mention Rhaenyra's complacency in their son's death, Laenor.
Yeah, not complacency, right? That would mean standing aside and being complacent. Whatever the version is, complicit.
Yes.
Complicit necessity.
Complicity.
Complicity.
Yeah. We have not heard the end of this.
No, I don't think so.
Rhaenyra is the only one who's demonstrated restraint.
That
We get
was a
that.
cool
Yeah.
scene. Yeah, all of them talking about war in the Black Council, and she's just sitting there thinking. And then Corlys comes in the.
It
Gil,
just
you were
like
saying,
Viserys' entrance,
yes, just like generally people entering throne rooms. Awesome.
but especially when they have like a cane and they're like
Yeah.
not walking right.
When I love you get the announcement first, like the Lord of Driftmarsh.
Yeah. So yeah, seeing his return is great. He's a good character. Also, one that it's hard completely to root for him because he's made a lot of mistakes, and he also early in the series expressed no concern about violence and using force to get what he wants.
You do get a feeling though, like I very much got this feeling of Rhaenyra is a bit in over her head. But she's never been through war before, and she does keep making these statements about, oh, we've got that loyalty from these alliances. Once he walks in and says he's on her side, even before you get to the fleet and the Stepstones, you say that's somebody you want to have on your side in this situation.
And he's seasoned. He has resources. He's serious.
Yeah.
It's funny. That's one of the things in this episode that actually hit me the hardest, like where I actually felt for Rhaenyra when she gets the support of Corlys, and then she gives this look to Rhaenys. Like that had a big emotional impact on me. I was like, wow, like Rhaenyra is way in over her head, but now she's actually getting like support from these like older, powerful, like wise people.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's they've stressed this a few times, but because of Viserys, there were no wars for these people to become seasoned in.
Yeah.
So really, it was like the stepstones where anyone who wanted that experience would have had to get it.
Yeah.
And so this, like, the black faction is sort of shaping up to be one that is more seasoned and has more experience in battle.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the green one, it seems to be more politically adept, and they're going to be tough.
When it comes to war,
yeah.
they're a bit more green.
But they have
you go.
seasoned dragons.
That's
True.
true.
They have Vagar. I don't know about their other. Have their other dragons seen war? I'm not sure.
I don't know. But yeah, see, look how enmeshed their families are.
Yeah.
And oh, you know what? It's one. If you're the Luke and Jace, here's one bright side to knowing that they're bastards. They're not really related to their spouses.
Oh yeah, true.
That is nice.
It's a nice benefit. Like, at least it's not incest.
In this world, they're like, I don't know, this is kind of weird. We're not even related.
Yeah.
I'm kind of gross about this.
Did you think there was a chance they wouldn't give their full support?
No, I didn't think so. Is it to me? Even though Rhaenys plays it like, I just came here to give you a warning. I felt like she's on Rhaenyra's side, and if she is, Corlys will follow.
Rhaenyra also just doesn't stand a chance without them.
She needs them. Yeah, absolutely. And also, it's not just that they have this force, but the fact that it's a naval, and that like all these resources come into Westeros through the sea. That's like they have a choke point now. They have an actual strategy. It's not just we need to get the loyalty from this house and this house, and we need to take over this area. It's we can upstream choke off the King's Landing.
I have to step away, but the last thing I'll say is I really like the show. This is a good season.
Awesome.
I'm looking forward to talking more about this show, like 5 years from now or whenever the next season comes out.
I think they're saying they're targeting 2024, so I have a couple of years.
I hope you're joking.
No, I'm serious. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I miss when it just shows used to just be like one season per year.
Yeah, no, not anymore.
That's far from now.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll be worth it.
Maybe they need the actors to age a bit for like whatever's coming next. So they discuss their strategy. They have the step zones, the total blockade of the shipping lanes. The triarchy has been routed. I don't totally know what that means.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, but
the
they control the
main
narrow
takeaway
sea.
though is they control shipping, and that's a pretty big advantage in this war.
And then I think like one alternate path for resources to come in is the Gullet, which Rhaenys is going to patrol herself on Dragonback, which sounds exhausting because that's a pretty big area to just control one person. But yeah, so they drain the narrow sea. This is their plan. Basically, they need to swiftly cut them off. My guess is it won't go perfectly.
Yeah, and then this is where we get to let's send ravens to get support, and Luke has the brilliant idea. Jace has the brilliant idea. Instead of ravens,
let's kill Luke.
Yeah, exactly. which I think, Alon, you and I were talking about this, and we had that attitude of like, is that a great idea to send the two kids? And it does make sense.
Yeah.
Like his point is valid, right? It's going to land stronger and faster if you send the two of us.
Yeah, because the only way you can get there in time is send a dragon, and you need to send someone high enough in the corporate ladder to send a message. There really is no way to get there as fast as they want with the people they want the other way.
And then in retrospect, you can say, well, that decision got Luke killed.
Hindsight is 20/20.
Yeah. So we kind of talked about that whole scene already, which was an awesome sequence. Makes you very, like I alluded to earlier, I know it was an accident, but it was extremely careless of Aemond to allow that to happen. And he is older than Luke. He is not at an age where I can just write it off and say, he's 12 years old. Like he's, I think, early 20s. And so, big mistake. Though, and then when we see Rhaenyra's face at the end of the episode, which I believe is our thumbnail,
Yes.
and we have the
Yeah.
glowing eyes, which is no mistake because I don't think she's too happy about this.
No. We see her final goodbye to Luke, kind of looking out onto the sea, not knowing if this would be the last time she ever sees him.
No.
Well, probably not expecting it to be the last time, especially because she thinks she's sending him on the easy mission.
Right.
And
She
here
was
they
like,
swear.
Luke.
Yeah,
I'll see you
yeah.
soon.
So they swear that they're going as messengers, not as warriors. And yeah, they say goodbye. She thinks she's sending him on just a short flight. Thinks just Luke's presence will be like a gift to Lord Boros.
The more she kept selling how easy it'll be. And then when we followed him and not Jace, like there's a reason they're showing us Luke right now. You knew it was going to be a bad news. But yeah, it's one of the brilliant strokes of the show at this point, at this part of the episode, is that every character is a little bit gray. So even if you're on their side, it's always with a few caveats of like, well, Rhaenyra had to kill that one guy to make it look like her husband ran away. You have to kind of look past stuff.
Mm-hmm.
With the children, they're uncorrupted at this point. So even if Luke were going to grow up to be a jerk, at this point, I can still just say, I don't want a child to die.
Mm-hmm.
And the little we know about him makes me sympathetic to him. So if you're going to feel tension, he's kind of the perfect character to put in the crosshairs.
He did slice out Aemon's eye.
He had it coming.
Yeah, he had it coming. And if anything, it worked out for the best because it turned him into a badass. Set him on a course to prove himself.
I wish someone would slash my eye out.
I think it's too late for you. That had to happen about 20 years ago.
Yeah. So they fly off. The dragons look cool, right?
Yeah, and I'll also say people who have complained about the CGI or the effects not looking great, when you zoom in close on somebody riding Dragonback, it looks kind of goofy. In the rain and during a storm, it covers up the imperfections. So I've never really had a big problem with the way it looks, but I would just say here especially, yeah, once they're in the darkness and in the rain, it looked pretty awesome.
Yeah. Anywho, we do have this scene,
Oh yeah, this was
which is
interesting.
easy to overlook. But what's Daemon doing?
Well, he's-
Singing.
Yeah, singing. It looks like he's going. Is he claiming one of the unclaimed dragons? This is where I need Daniel.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm guessing maybe that's what he's doing. It seems like he's like singing that song so the dragon knows he's coming. Maybe it's a song the dragon's heard before.
Mm-hmm.
It's a dragon that's seen some stuff. Look at that scar on its
Look at
nose.
those teeth.
Yeah,
Looks uncomfortable.
yeah.
You close your mouth.
So that's my guess. It's probably okay. James W says Vermithor is the biggest unclaimed dragon, and Cannibal is the biggest wild dragon. Both almost as big as Vhagar. If those two were to tag team Vhagar, it's over. Maybe this is one of those. Maybe this is one of those two dragons.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but I think I believe that's what he's doing. There's an unclaimed dragon, maybe that he's here to entice.
Yeah, but you can't claim more than one, right? So is he just?
I don't
trying
know.
to
Daenerys had 3.
True,
Although I
but
guess
then
she only rode
one.
one.
Yeah. So maybe he's just trying to befriend this dragon so he can bring one of the kids to be like, all right, listen, you two be friends. You're gonna.
This is Vermithor, by the way.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So we see him approaching, and then it's ambiguous. We don't know what happens.
I think this tells you everything you need to know. You cut from the dragon's eye to his eye. They're linked now.
Telepathically linked.
Yeah. That's what I think. Like this means like that dragon is now one of theirs.
Yeah.
Wait, do we see Daemon again? Or Daemon again after this?
I don't think so. No.
Okay, he ate him.
He ate Daemon.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that makes
Daemon's
sense.
dead.
Like, couldn't you guys tell? I thought we made it obvious. Luke approaching Storm's End. We talked a lot about this. You see
Man,
Vhagar
look at that.
looming. Just, like I knew Vhagar was huge, but
He could destroy everything there with his tail.
Yeah.
I didn't totally get how big Vhagar was until we see the two dragons next to each other.
Yeah, this is good setup for the war to come, because I think in general we haven't had the dragons next to each other where you could understand the size difference and the power difference. You just think, oh, both sides have dragons. this makes you really appreciate that it also matters which dragons you have, which dragons match up against other dragons. They even discuss it in this episode, saying it's not something you often see, two dragons fighting each other. So, yeah, I think this is good prep for next season.
Yeah, there's one really cool shot where you actually see Vhagar like flying directly over them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah, you can just barely see the shadow of Vhagar behind them.
Yeah, but it just shows you the size difference.
Yeah.
And it's just terrifying.
I mean, it makes Luke's dragon look like a little baby.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we talked a lot about this already. But as Viserys said, like these dragons can be terrible, and it's like a force that's not completely under their control. And in this case, it's like a feud between these two dragons is causing history to happen.
Yeah, and it's essentially two children, and the outcome of it isn't even intentional. So you've got a dragon basically acting independently in that moment, and huge implications for the war.
This right here reminded me of Star Wars.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
That's
Like,
always
go,
what they
go
do.
sideways through
Yeah.
the middle.
And it looked like he was really going to get away. But this is like the classic Game of Thrones switcheroo where you breathe that sigh of relief for a second. But then his dragon has to mess it up by, shooting fire at the other dragon and shot it kind of right at Vhagar's eye a little bit. Which I think is just a nice little parallel. And look, he's home free, right? Cool shot. You see like the edge of the storm cloud.
It's a nice desktop background.
Yeah. Only for out of nowhere, Vhagar just destroys them.
Yeah.
Rips them into little pieces. And then after you see like the pieces falling, I wanted Aemon to steer his dragon down to see if Luke is still alive somehow to catch him.
Yeah, no,
I was hoping against hope.
The mouth, like where it bit, I think is right where Luke was sitting.
Yeah, like he might already be in Vhagar's belly.
Yeah,
Might still be alive.
he may as well have bit off the Titan's nape.
Yeah, I'm picturing next episode Luke emerging.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, Vhagar's gigantic.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's the dragon just torn to little bits. And that's the last we see of Luke. Now, this next scene, this is Rhaenyra receiving the news. It felt very sudden.
Yeah.
To just because I don't know, just one thing happens and then suddenly you have the scene of the other person receiving the news. The show does that kind of thing a lot, and they have so much time that they need to cover. And I don't know, what did they need to show us? I get that word can travel and the message gets passed
That's
around.
kind of how I viewed it, especially since it was a dialogue-free scene, right? It was just somber music.
Yeah.
And so to me, it felt like the show, it didn't feel like cut to her finding out. It felt like, and we all know what happens next.
Yeah.
It's just, to me, it fit, actually. The emotional beat just landed in the right spot.
I think it's cool also around this, everyone else is doing their war planning and war monitoring and the action, the side characters in this scene are all continuing to have their conversations, and this is a private moment. And then this is the transformation.
Yeah.
It was in that moment she became Heisenberg.
Yeah. Yeah, so now that we've gotten through the whole season, Adam, looking back on it, what do you say?
It was good. I'm looking forward to the next season. Especially this episode gave me that feeling of I want to watch more.
Yeah.
I didn't get that. I've enjoyed the series so far with a lot of hesitation, and I still have a lot of skepticism and fear about how the show will go. But this is the first episode this season where at the end I'm craving more.
Yeah.
Which is kind of how Game of Thrones started for me. The first season didn't really grip me that much. I had several false starts with the show where I started watching it, kind of lost interest, started again, same thing. And eventually it had my investment, and I'm starting to feel that at the end of this episode where Whereas if I had another episode that I could watch, I would have put it on immediately.
Yeah. Yeah, no, same here. I mean, we've all been very positive on the show throughout the season. Where we've had complaints, they've generally been minor or pretty specific, where it wasn't, this is a problem with the show as a whole. It was more, this particular episode didn't work for me for this reason. A lot of times it was due to the time skips and just some of the, again, like we had no problem with the time skips in principle, but sometimes that would result in a scene we just don't really care about because it's a character we haven't connected with. But even that, it seems like the time skips are probably done at this point. We're in the war now. So, yeah, really like the season, really like this episode. Can't wait to see where it goes in season 2. Though we have to wait. I think somebody in the chat, Guy Incognito, Mohammed said they're targeting March or April of 2024. So it is going to be a long wait, and that's unfortunately become the reality with prestige TV these days.
Is that what it's called?
That's what they call it, yeah. There's this phenomenon, right, the last few years of just shows that are like, these are good shows. They kind of transcend the medium of television. People call it prestige TV.
That's why Talking Targaryen didn't have to come out on time.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
It's a prestige podcast.
What about you, Alon? This is the season overall. What do you think?
Really liked it, and really looking forward to season 2. I'm hoping that this 2-year gap will be for a good reason. I'm not as impatient as I used to be with TV shows where, I think now that I'm older, I can hold out for 2 years. But I do hope that we're going to get a really amazing battle, like Battle of the Bastards level quality. I hope that's where a lot of the time.
I can't even go back and rewatch that episode and enjoy it.
Yeah, I know. I used to watch it every day.
Yeah, we used to put on just that episode just to watch the battle.
Yeah.
But even that had its flaws because like Sansa was doing that thing where she was scheming with Littlefinger in the background, and it's like, why did you keep that secret from Jon and let so many people die?
And leading up to it, she kept being like, Jon, you're not thinking about like whatever you think is the right answer. He already knows. You got to figure out a better strategy. Like, what would you have me do? I don't know, but something better than this. Yeah. Then meanwhile in secret. Anyway.
That show sucked.
Yeah. Well, so the good thing, though, I said, unfortunately, they take these long breaks between seasons. But that also means they're letting the shows, they're putting the creative investment into the show. They're not rushing it. So I think we'd prefer to wait and then get a good product.
I don't know. We waited 2 years for season 8 of Game of Thrones. And it was only, 6 episodes?
Yeah, honestly, I would prefer they don't even tell us a time estimate. Just work on it, release it when it's ready.
That's how anime works. I never know when it's coming. Yeah. So with that, I think we can.
There's no other confirmed spinoffs yet, are there?
Nothing confirmed. We know there's a lot's been confirmed to be in development, but that nothing is definitely going to series or getting a pilot.
Not even that Jon Snow one.
No, they're just in development.
I hope they make the Jon Snow sequel only on the condition that they redo the Night King and the.
Yeah, definitely not happening.
Why can't they just do it?
They should, because then
What
it
are they
would, then it would be admitting they
Facebook?
messed up.
Yeah.
Did you see Macy Williams was recently Twitch streaming with her brother, and she said that the ending was a bit rocky. Like
Did she say like it went off the rails or something?
She said, I think that's what she said. She said something like that.
Yeah.
That's not enough. I want one of them to issue a formal apology.
Well, the actors don't need to. Oh,
I want them to demand a formal apology from Benioff and Weiss.
I agree. Well, I mean, they basically apologized by going into hiding, and we never heard from them
they
ever
didn't
again.
have a choice. They're like, they're basically holed up in Dragonstone because if any rabid fan sees them,
Well, listen, at least they've got that Star Wars project.
Canceled.
Maybe. Yeah, I know. I'm just kidding.
But they do.
do have some Star Wars thing though, right?
No, the Star Wars thing got canceled.
Oh, okay.
But they were coming out with this big budget Netflix show, The Three Bodies Experiment.
The 3-body problem.
Yeah, the 3-body problem. Yeah.
Yes,
It looks cool.
Are they working
I
off
learned a
of
little bit about it.
completed material?
Yes.
All right, cool.
It's a Chinese sci-fi book, and the premise of it sounds really interesting. So,
Yeah.
I've like heard some stuff about it. It sounds cool. I'm boycotting I'm boycotting the show.
All right. With that,
Just like you boycotted House of the Dragon.
Yeah.
let's talk about. Okay, so you have to wait a couple years for House of the Dragon to come back. In the meantime, One Take's still going to be here. We're still going to be here. So just make sure you subscribe to the One Take YouTube channel. You're going to see a lot of our scripted, produced content, some of it about House of the Dragon.
Danny sort of forgot about the Iron Fleet.
Yeah, I think we'll have some House of the Dragon
That'd be
content.
like Rhaenyra forgetting about the Green faction.
You know they killed Luke. Wait, what? Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah, so more House of the Dragon content
Yes.
coming. If you like us,
We want to do a dragon tier list.
Yeah, dragon.
Ranking all the dragons.
We'll have Daniel sit in a 3-hour live stream ranking every dragon in Westeros.
Yeah.
We'll also do more podcasting. I'm not gonna do the thing I normally do, where I'm like, starting now, every week we're gonna do a podcast, and we'll just when we're able to, when we can round everyone up together, we'll either podcast, live stream, some combination of the two. But basically, the bottom line is just make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel One Take, and that's so you'll get notified and get to see all this stuff.
We are going to do like lore and theory videos and things like that
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, definitely.
about House of the Dragon, Game of Thrones. Maybe if there's any more spin-off news, we'll talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And also,
Patreon.
yeah, check out the Patreon. We do some exclusive content there.
You hear what I really think.
Yeah, that's right. That's where we let our hair down, peel the curtain back, a little bit more honest. Muhammad asks, will we be covering any other series? Maybe. It's got to be something we really care about.
$18.99.
Yeah, well, $18.99 we're going to cover. It won't be in this format because it's a Netflix show, so it's all going to drop at once. That's November 17th. I think what we're going to do for that is, Alon, are you taking the day off like we talked about?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So we're going to binge the whole season that day. I think what we'll do is we'll have the mics on and ready. So between episodes, we can jump on and kind of record a few minutes of thoughts and reaction. And then after we finish the season, because everyone's going to be binging it, then we can release like a compilation video where it's sort of a watch along where you'll hear all our thoughts as we go through the season. That's a maybe. In terms of definitely, you'll see an edited, scripted, produced review of the season, probably some explainer videos, analysis, that kind of thing.
Tell them about Halloween.
Yes. So this is going to be me bending the knee and pleading because remember in Breaking Bad where Walt claimed to have gone into a fugue state where he just forgot a few days of his life and just woke up naked in a grocery store? I went into a fugue state, and on the other side of it, I was like, I made a 4-hour video about Halloween, Michael Myers. But this is an epic video. It's a retrospective where I watch all 13 Halloween movies, including the newest one, recap each of them, review all of them. But even if you're not into the Halloween movies, there's a storyline that connects it all, where if you enjoyed our Lyle spoof or just enjoy our sense of humor, you will love these interludes. Just to give you a preview, basically Adam suspects that Daniel is turning evil. So I go to watch all the Halloween movies as research and figure out what to do. So there's about 25 minutes of storyline embedded in that video. So even if you're not interested in Halloween, go to that video. There are chapter markers. Go to the interludes 1 through 10. Those are all the little storyline bites. And I think you'll really enjoy it.
There's a lot of VFX, CG, special effects.
Yeah, this was big budget. Like we got props, costumes, CGI.
Really great acting from all of us.
I would say so, especially Alon, Adam, and Daniel.
And Gil.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
And our friend Vince.
That's right. Yeah.
I pasted the link 3 times.
There you go. Yeah. So please check that out. I'm going to be watching right now live to see if any views pop up. And if they don't, be really disappointed in you guys.
Then you're all in trouble.
After all we've done for you.
Yeah. And I think we might talk more about just the first season. This was like a coverage of mostly of this episode, but I don't know. I'm not done chewing on the whole thing.
Yeah. So much like Vagar chewing on Luke's remains, Adam's still chewing on the season 1.
Yeah. I'll spit out the carcass for all
We
of it.
didn't see him chew. He
I
might
don't-
fall out of his mouth.
I don't think dragons chew. I think they just swallow.
With
All
that.
right, with that. Normally that's the kind of thing that would be cut
Yeah.
and we put in the post credits, but
Also sounds like the name of the podcast episode.
yeah, that's right. Okay, with that, I'm Gil.
I'm Alon.
I'm Adam.
Direct-
Wait. Someone say for Daniel.
I'm Daniel. Dracarys.